I don't want to be shocked at 9. I don't. If there are guys on the board that are guys that most people think are true difference makers, then I hope it's not a shock. I hope that what they do is they draft, whether it's the pass rusher or if there's an offensive lineman there that they like or one of the wide receivers.
Yeah.
I'd prefer to see them draft somebody that the general consensus is one of these guys is going to be a difference maker right away. I hope that's what they do.
Yeah, well, I think they're in a great shape for that. And although I keep thinking that unless somebody's falling because of some crazy trades that we're not anticipating for quarterbacks into the top 10, that he may move down. And so collecting a few more and still getting that cloud of, you got clouds of players. He'll mention that on Tuesday up at Alice Hall when he meets the media, if he's meeting the media on Tuesday. I'm not quite even sure about that, but typically the GM does talk to the media before the draft. There's going to be a cloud of players in the range that they're all graded very similarly based on what their discussions have unveiled over the course of all these weeks. And so they'll feel comfortable with something, and if they can trade down and still get one of those 3 or 4 guys, then they'll do that and pick up some extra draft capital. Because I'm actually, just looking at it again, reminding myself that, gosh, they got 75 and they got 122 after this. I'd like to wet my beak a little bit more than just those 2 additional after the top 10. I'm being greedy. I know that. I'm being greedy, but I think you could really trade yourself into a haul of picks if you really feel good about the first 2-3 rounds.
But, Jeff, can I convince you that this year's draft should also take Montez Sweat and Keenan Allen into consideration? Could I sell you on that? Or you still want the picks? Well, they traded draft picks that they would be using next week. They traded those for existing players.
Yeah, I got it. That's fine. But I still feel, you start learning about some of these guys and you want them all. So, yeah, I wouldn't mind having a few more, but yeah, I get what you're saying. But, the bottom line is if they keep 9 or they move down a little, they're going to get somebody that's going to be a day 1 starter, and he's going to be a great player for the Bears for hopefully 8 to 10 years.
I think, Jeff, and you've been talking a lot about offensive linemen on Bears Weekly coming up here at 6:30, but I've heard you on my drive home with us. I think you've talked offensive linemen, thinking about that. You still want something up front. Which is, do I have it right? Is there one lineman in particular that you like more than the others? And I'm not talking about Joe Alt. I'm talking about in the next group. Is there someone that I've heard you talk about more than others?
Well, I've talked a lot about a guy that has to be an alpha type of guy and a nasty guy, and Talise Fuaga of Oregon State is a guy that I really, just listening to him talk at the Combine, just his attitude and going back and watching him play. Now, this is the thing, though. Is he a right tackle? And that's what you have. Like, a lot of these guys, there's a lot of right tackles by experience in this draft. That doesn't mean they can't play left tackle or they can't kick in to play guard at worst. And that's something that's going to be a part of the evaluation. So you could just say, okay, I like the way this guy's playing. But, Darnell Wright played very well at right tackle last year. Does that mean he can move to the left side if necessary? I'm sure he could. But, like Tommy always talks about, not this Tommy, but maybe you do, Waddle, but Thayer always talks about, hey, I really wouldn't want to have a guy that hasn't played a position that he is going to play in the NFL. So I want a guy that's had reps at that position. And this is not like college recruiting when a guy never played corner in high school football. But, they're going to play him at corner in college, and we're going to grow him because we like his traits. No, this is a whole different ballgame, and that's what I would prefer. And I don't want anybody that's had a big injury history. So those are some things that I'm looking at. But Fuaga interests me. A lot of these guys are I want a nasty guy. I want a nasty football team. I want a talented football team, but I want a nasty football team that, and I've been saying this for a long time, for years. I want them to have an edge. And I think this town would appreciate that. And a franchise that has had plenty of those type of players in it would appreciate that. And I don't know how you guys feel about it, but this is Chicago. Let's get nasty.
Yeah,
that's a great tagline. This is Chicago. Let's get nasty.
Yeah,
bumper stickers for
good.
everyone.
Nasty good.
Shirts out tomorrow.
Yeah,
Jeff. What about we were talking to or heard from Field Yates that he drafted this player, the guard tackle from Washington, Fatanu. But he's a left tackle who played a lot of left tackle, but a lot of people project his guard. He said he could be like a guy who plays everywhere on the line. And I texted Field, I go, did you just draft for the Bears a super sub? And he goes, no, I just drafted the best lineman for the best lineman available for them, or something like that, the best line prospect. Do you like him?
Yeah, I mean, that's another outstanding player. More people are looking at him at potentially guard, but 6'3 3/4, 317, 2-year starting left tackle in a pass scheme. But he's played guard. He's played 114 snaps at guard over the past 3 years, but mostly a left tackle. Again, a guy with an attitude. I sent some clips to Tom of his cut blocking. Tom's a big fan of cut blocking. That you don't see that every day, but he's a nasty cut blocker, playing a few snaps at left tackle that I saw. So a big fan of Troy Polamalu growing up. That Polynesian connection from youth football. He wears number 43. We all saw kind of reckless abandon he played with. So I like those type of guys too. I really think it's, again, much like receiver and offensive line, it's what flavor do you like? What kind of ice cream you digging? And what are you willing to go for here? Because you're going to have a lot of options. And then, I was even doing some math on this, because you got to think this through a little bit. If you can't get the player you really want, or you get your cloud of players, or you're thinking about helping out a Montez Sweat on the other side of the line and not picking an offensive lineman, because you never can have enough offensive linemen. And I looked at Dane Brugler from Athletic, does an unbelievable in-depth job on stuff. And so I just looked at how he had ranked his players, his top 100 players or so. And in that group, so as he ranked his players, in that top 100, so the Bears are going to have, even into that 125 range, 13 receivers, 11 tackles, 8 defensive tackles, 8 edge rushers, 11 cornerbacks would theoretically be drafted in that range. So there's going to be a whole lot of people going after some of these players. So if the Bears want somebody, they may have to strike quickly, and they better not. If they do trade, they may not be able to trade too far down to get the guy they like.
Jeff, have you had any interactions with Caleb Williams? And if not, what do you make of what you've heard about him and his visit with the Bears?
I've heard nothing but great things about the visit. Number one, look a guy in the eye type of introduction to almost everybody in the building from Caleb Williams. Handshake, a look in the eye, very personable. I've not personally met the man, other than watching him at the combine at the podium. What I did then, though, I followed him around to all his 10 interviews after. And I just wanted to see because sometimes I've seen players, they get worn out with it. They get a little touchy. They don't want to be bothered. He was very personable, and he had this contingent of USC people with him, their content team, their player, I think they call him a player relations director that they had over there at USC. And it was very interesting to see how he appreciated those folks from USC afterwards. He got pictures with them. They were having fun, and I asked this one woman from their content, hey, what's his personality like? Listen, man, he's a fun-loving guy, first and foremost. Don't let all this other stuff, whatever you hear is, this guy's got a big heart. He loves his teammates. He's a fun-loving, likes to have fun, but he loves football and he wants to be great. So everything we've heard, checking all those boxes. And so I'm excited to see what they're going to put around him, and I'm getting excited. Everybody's got clips on him every day, and you see these unbelievable plays, and it does get you excited. This is not some slappy coming into Chicago.
I love that. It's so good.